All right, welcome back. We are Game 3004. That's Mobile Game Dev 2 in the winter 2022 semester at George Brown. And it's week 6, part 1 of our broadcast and recording. And this week, yes, that's what I'm going to do exactly, Kara. And this week, what we want to talk about is a bunch of stuff. Again, just to give us a little bit of a bird's eye view on where we are. We're sitting with the project checkpoint that is due next week. So hopefully you guys are working on that, which is the expectation. And we're sitting here at week 6. We're kind of at the near the bottom of the semester. So again, next week what I'll do is I'll put up a little sign-up sheet, and there will be no official lecture or lab, as we'll be doing project checkpoint presentations for next week. So that means that this is our last lab for the first half of semester. That's going to be due at the end of the week. And we'll have a chance to take a look at your projects and give you good feedback on everything that you've already developed for this course so far. And then in the second half, remember what we're doing is we're converting everything you made in the first half to mobile, right? So the first half is almost like a complete little project, a little game that you're doing for WebGL. And that is your prototyping phase, finding the fun for the game and all that kind of stuff. And then the second half, you're actually producing the game that you want to do for mobile. And that's a different user story with a different viewport and all that same stuff we covered last time, but for 3D this time, so that we can talk about some similarities and some differences. And then you'll have at least 2 mobile games with Unity at the end of this year, right? This third year for you, which is pretty awesome. All right, so what did we cover last week? Last week we made a little coin mesh, so a pickup of some kind. We also, there's always, one thing I have to mention, there's always underlying motives why I get you guys to do stuff, even if it's silly things, okay? So, for example, creating a simple coin, some of you might have thought, well, why are we doing this? As a pickup, you're making your own stuff, and then you're also learning how to use some of the same tools we talked about before, mirror modifiers. You're using things like different tools to make adjustments, like loop cut and slide that we've done before. We talked about n-gons and how they're really bad for texturing. We're going to try and avoid them today as well in Blender, and a bunch of other stuff we talked about, right? We added animation, but that was frame-based animation in Blender. And we're going to do something different there today. We imported that into Unity and related textures. We had a bunch of textures this time come in instead of one. And we fixed some animation issues that we had in. We created a mini map for 3D, which is basically just a redo of what we did last semester, which was last year. And we added a death plane, a respawn point. We talked about how we have to disable the character controller to do that. And we built the game for WebGL and deployed the GitHub page. And that was all last week. Plus, we covered just a pile of other things in between here and there. So lots of stuff. And the idea is that we're, again, trying to build capability. So every one of you, from a 3D perspective, is a good team member and is able to contribute to the team. So hopefully you guys are keeping up with that and doing that. All right, so that is what we did last week. Things that are due this week. So again, just as a reminder, mid-semester checkpoint with updated GDD is due next week. That's coming up. Your 6th weekly report is out and is due this Friday. And Lab 4, the one we're going to work on today, is also due this Friday. Other items due on the horizon that we want to keep up is their second peer review, which is going to be mated with our mid-semester checkpoint. That's due next week, so make sure you do that. And the 7th weekly report is also going to happen next week. So a couple things happening next week. Next week should be a pretty good week in terms of individual work, as well as an update on where you're sitting in your project. So when I talk about what we're going to do this week when it comes to the lab, let's do one more thing before Vince goes on. I wanted to mention that if you look up UB Next Toronto, if you haven't had a chance to see this, it's that time, right, where Ubisoft is running their yearly competition, okay? And the programming brief, as well as the programming of the API, is available for you to download now. So please, if you haven't had a chance to grab this, please grab this right away today, I would say. And I know some of you aren't interested in doing this kind of stuff, but there's other competitions that are running at the same time. Let's talk about that. So again, eligibility, as long as you're a student and you're either attending high school or some post-secondary school, and you're not going to graduate, you didn't graduate earlier than 2020, then you're residing in Ontario, eligible to work in Canada, and you submit the challenge individually, then you're good to go pretty much. And here are the due dates, the key dates that you have to remember for this time. So last Friday, they made the API, programming API available. That's a C++ programming API from Ubisoft. That was February the 11th. March 11th, a month from last Friday, the programming challenge opens, and you'll get a brief that's very detailed. They're going to ask you to do something with that API. So what you want to do is download the API right now, right today, if you can, if you're interested. And you should be, because this is an opportunity to, to work at Ubisoft, which is a AAA game company. No matter how you feel about Ubisoft itself, it's the experience you want and the opportunity to prove yourself and to challenge yourself. The programming challenge starts on March 11th, and over that weekend, from March 11th to 13th, you have a chance to submit your stuff. What I'm going to do for that weekend specifically, whatever we got due, right? I'll move it. I'll give you a chance to submit your stuff so that I don't get in your way of what's happening for this week. Okay, just letting you know. I'm going to remind you about this again because I think it's super important for you guys who have, at this level in third year, have the best opportunity to have a chance to perform well. All of you should try it, every one of you. And even if you don't make it, it's a great experience to submit it and go through it and try something like this compared to not doing it at all. Okay, so that's what this is. There's other stuff out there too. Level design is also available, but unfortunately for most of you, that first deadline is passed, so you can't submit there. But you are able to add things like animations, concept art, if you're that kind of person, and technical art. That's all still available for you. That's a key date. But I mean, these things have been open since December 14th. So if you're doing any of these, the reason why they give you so much time is so you can really do a great job on putting something like this together, your thing. One thing to notice, I want to look at this programming brief with you one sec to talk about what you get, right, if you have a chance to win and all that kind of stuff, right, which is pretty awesome. So submission requirements require you to have an up-to-date resume. So that's another thing you can do over the next month. Put your resume together, update your LinkedIn Learning LinkedIn profile, I mean, and you need to do that, guys. If you're kind of near the end of the time at George Brown, and it's time to start thinking about those things. If you're not thinking about it already, put together a video on YouTube using OBS. They're recommending that, and you're going to package it up in a certain way, and the documentation must be in PDF and PowerPoint format. So anything that you're going to do, there are requirements, not just your demo, but also everything else. Okay, so that's taking a look at that. They're going to judge you on code structure. They're going to judge you on technical challenge, how advanced and well applied your techniques are. What is your design like? Do you have an ambitious design? And innovation. Are you innovative? Are you creative? Not just the bare minimum of what they've asked you to do, right? So this is what they're gonna judge you on, and it's out of 30 points, right? So if you win, and if you have a chance to, prizes include, for first prize, one paid programmer apprentice position, so not a QC, programming apprentice position at Ubisoft Toronto, and for a minimum of duration of 3 months. And I know friends of mine, like I said, who have won this from Ontario Tech and other places, and it's not 3 months, it's usually at least 6 months to a year. And they pay very, very well for junior programmers. That's pretty awesome. So I mean, we're talking about $60,000 to $65,000 start, right, for this kind of stuff. I think it's worthwhile. And even if you only work there for 3 months, it's still awesome because you get a chance to get coached and have somebody working with you. A lot of these guys go into the office, like in person. So even now, I have some friends of mine who are storyboard artists and some producers. They're in the office. They're there at Ubisoft at least a couple times a week. which means there's a good chance it'll be in-person learning with them, in addition to everything else. And this is perfect timing for you guys. Think about this, May of 2022, right? So, you're going to just wind out um, your year, and you can probably work it out with them. So, you start right after this is done. And it says date subject to change at the sole discretion of Ubisoft. They'll probably respect it. If you get in, if they like you and you're like, can you push it till the end of April so I'm done school? They'll probably say, yeah. They're good like that. They're not unreasonable people. I've talked to them before, right? So again, and you also get a prize pack for $300. Finalist prizes, and there's more than one of these, and this is why it's great. They don't just do like first prize and then you get nothing. They have other finalist prizes where they give you a little pack, a prize pack, and who cares? Even if you don't get in, you get something from them, and you're like, I applied and I got something. I was like second, and then they encourage you to do it again next year. And there's nothing wrong with continuing to apply if you're interested in doing that. So that's my spiel. I don't work for Ubisoft, and I'm not really associated with them, but I think it's a great little competition. It's local in Toronto, AAA studio, good on your resume, and great experience, an opportunity for great experience for you guys, because we don't have a any kind of internship kind of tied to this program here, and we don't have co-op. So something like this is an opportunity for you to do something like co-op for the summer, at least, worst case scenario, if not for the remainder of the year. Thoughts on this before we move on to Vince's little dog and pony? So I encourage you guys, please do it. I know I've spent a lot of time, part of our time, talking about this, but I think it's super important for you guys, to build up your, your capability, and to show that the best, put your best foot forward, and kind of do, challenge, you step up to the challenge. Okay, so do it. It's there, and I'm going to give you the link here on our chat. So please don't forget to do that. And Vince, if like you said, if you can share that with your programming group there and your club, that'd be awesome. All right. On that, let's transition to Vince. Vince, do you want screen share, or what are you going to do?
Just a couple announcements for the IGDA club. Friday, we have one of the George Brown professors on the art side who works at Activision Raven Software to give a discussion on technical art and what he's doing at Activision Raven Software. I think he works on Call of Duty Warzone, so feel free to come around on Friday at 8:30 p.m. And there's another scheduled event coming down. I've been in contact with JP for about past couple of weeks now. We were going to bring in Mr. John Smedley, who is the general manager at Amazon Games currently, and he is also known as the creator of EverQuest. So the scheduled time that we want to have Mr. Smedley over is Thursday, March 8th at 5 p.m., which is the Tuesday of the week we come back from intercession break. The only issue is that it does conflict with our class time with Tom here. So we have the choice. Tom is still going to record and do the class session, but if you want to come over to the IGDA Discord Club and attend a session with Mr. Smedley, you are also welcome to do so. Tom will progress with the course, and I will hold the event there. So it's your choice. If you're interested, please feel free to DM me on Discord. Vince3ho at #9395.
Just
But yes, that's my spiel. Yeah, you have the choice of either attending class or coming over to talk with someone who's pretty high up there in the industry right now.
right. Thank you, Vince. So, and thanks for that. So again, guys, just wanted to, I think there's some great events coming up. I know it's not necessarily related to what we're doing here, 100%, but the great thing about this is you have a chance to meet someone from the industry. I highly encourage that, even if it's during class time. I'm still going to record the video, just like Vince said, when you come back from break. And I think it's an opportunity for at least for you to hear it. Worst case, I know that there's, you can still participate in other ways. And I know that there's going to be other events and other people coming through, through the remainder of the year anyway. One thing I'm always curious about is if they're going to run something like Level Up Toronto, and that's one other event that always happens kind of around this time. So we should look that up because I know that last year they Ubisoft hosted it, which was something that they talked about. So Level Up Showcase, the last update that they had was for they did it in 2021 and everything else, and it's a game competition that they run as well in Toronto, typically when we're in person. Now I know, like I said, they were connected to Ubisoft last year, so it was only Ubisoft and Sheridan actually, which was surprising. So hopefully they'll extend that so that we have a chance to to actually participate in something like this again. It was an awesome. No, it happened. It happened last year, Vince, as well. It was just Level Up was something that they partnered with Ubisoft, and yeah, I know, and that's why I was kind of concerned and surprised about it because they had this whole thing that they did last year on it. All right, so hopefully that'll come up. I'll see if I can continue to connect with these people. I know that they're probably going to bring it back when all the COVID restrictions are lifted. It's just kind of a little late for them to physically do the venue and everything else. Just because by now we should already start booking who's part of it and all that kind of stuff. All right, so Level Up. Yeah. Okay, back to reality. Let's talk about the stuff we're talking about today. So what are we doing today and what's happening? So in Blender, here's what the challenge is this week. We're going to create a simple hazard. Okay. Actually, what I'm going to make is almost like a little a morning star or a mace that's going to smash on top of your head. Not your head, but your player's head, right? And it's going to be something that's going to continue to smash over and over. We're going to attach several textures. I've already put up a couple of textures up online for you. A bronze texture for the head of the mace or the hazard, and a metal texture for the arm of the mace, that kind of stuff. We're going to add an armature and bones in Blender this week, as well as create an animation using bones. And we're going to start with that right now. In Unity, we're going to import that on Thursday. We're going to do that. And we're going to continue to add stuff to our health system. We're going to add a health bar for enemies. We're going to talk about billboarding. We're also going to add a health bar for destructible objects. And we're going to talk about other things that we can do with destructible objects, like object swapping and that kind of stuff, to make it seem like it's being destroyed. And as well as I'm going to cover in-game object selection. So how do I select an object? How do I swap out materials and maybe outline them with the shader? We'll talk about all that, and the lab report will be ready for you guys on Thursday, so you can submit it. All right, lots of stuff to cover, of course, and almost never enough time. Let's get into that Blender stuff right now. So I'm going to pull up Blender, and I'm going to pull up Run as Administrator. Let's get that done first things first. And we want to keep it simple today, super simple, right? So again, what I want to do is think about basic shapes and how to make this hazard work together, right? So let's get rid of our cube. Start off with that. I'll hide my camera and my light like we've done before in the past. And let's think about what is the cube? What is this hazard made of, right? So the hazard obviously is made of a sphere, right? Which is going to be kind of the thing that's going to hit you. And there's going to be some kind of the stem or the handle of this mace that's going to be kind of rooted to the ground. Okay, so we can think about different piece parts to put together, and we're going to construct them inside of edit mode. So we'll start with one thing, we'll add the other things as we go. Okay, so let's start off with I'm going to start off with the cylinder for this one. So here's my cylinder. And what I want to do with the cylinder is I want to scale it in, right? So again, we're going to scale it in, so it's kind of thinner. And I'm just sizing it by eye right now, but it looks like we're at 0.35. Probably 0.3 is even better. Let's just change it to 0.3 all rounds. Yeah, there we are. And that's going to be the kind of the basis of this thing. And I want to make it kind of taller. So again, I'm going to scale it across the z-axis. So we're going to make this tall. So this is the stem of this thing right here. Okay, maybe even taller. So let me undo that and I'll start again. So scale only across the z-axis. So it's S, and then we're going to do Z. So it's S and then Z. S, scale, and then Z, constraint. Okay. And again, it looks like on the Z-axis, I'm about 15 times higher, so about 15 meters. Don't worry about this, the height. We're going to scale it when we bring it into Unity right now, afterwards. Okay, but just so the proportions are correct is what I'm looking at. Okay, so this is the handle of this thing. Let's go into edit mode for the handle itself. Now, one thing to note, if we want this handle to be bendy, which is what we want, we need to subdivide this handle several times, right? Because the way the bones work is from what we're, and this is what we're going to be doing, right? The way bones work is when we add a rig is they need geometry to work, okay? This is not the same as what we did previously where we had a low poly model. Once you start adding rigging, then the more geometry you add, the better it looks. You have to balance it, of course, okay? And we also have some issues. For example, up here, we're going to have issues with the top of this thing because of an n-gon. We have to get rid of that eventually, okay? But for now, let's put it into, kind of front view. Again, you can get to front view from view. At this point, you should know how to do it from the front or numpad 1. And what we want to do is we want to move this up. So I want to move this, so G, right, across the Z-axis. And I want to move it up to about here, right? So just at the bottom. We have to make sure that the bottom of our object aligns with the bottom of our bone. And from a move perspective, you can see that I've moved it up about 4.5 meters. Okay, again, just from a sizing perspective, if I was to go out to layout mode again, you can see that my object right now is 9 meters in height, so really tall. Obviously, this is not going to be the end the end scale, but 9 meters in height, 0.6 meters in diameter, or in I guess it would be radius, and my scale is 4.5 across the Z-axis and 0.3 across the X and Y scale, right? That's what's happening right now. So when I'm taking it into modeling form, I'm right at the bottom of my I'm kind of aligning with the X-axis for the bottom. All right, so we said we need to add other pieces, like for example, the head of this thing. And I'm going to bring in, starting off, some kind of sphere. And let's think about this for a second. The more, more stuff we're putting on the sphere, again, then the higher poly it is, but it's also going to look better. So we're going to add one in. So you can go add sphere. And you want to do a UV sphere, not an icosphere for this one. And again, it's a lot higher poly than we're used to. We're going to move this up to the top. And what we want to do is we want to marry these two together, right, somehow, where we have the bottom of our sphere connected to the top of our object. And tricks that I would probably use are, I probably would get rid of this part right here, right, or at least expand these bottom nodes here, because what we have here, notice that I have, when we made our sphere, I kept the amount of nodes. There's 32 of these for the, for the pipe that we just made, right? And there's 32 of these, right? So that's should be pretty much aligned with what we have. So here is the closest thing we have. Now we have to make sure that they're pretty good. We could add another ring. Notice that I can do that with Control R, right? Because that is closer to what we're looking at, right? So Control R, you can do a loop cut and slide here. So it is closer. It's not gonna be perfect, by the way. All right, but that's what you can do. Control R would add a ring, a loop around the same thing. Okay, so you can see that that is not great, but it's not bad. And I want to get rid of two things. I want to get rid of this face, which is an n-gon, and I want to get rid of all this geometry here at the bottom. Right, so the way we're going to do that is we're going to go into wireframe mode, and we're just going to go into front view and just get rid of this part. So just cut this out. There we go. So goodbye that stuff. Let's get rid of those verts. But now you can see that the bottom of the sphere is open with that extra little bit geometry that I have. And again, I want to shift back into face mode, face select mode, and then get out of wireframe and just get rid of that n-gon by deleting the face. So you can see that now we have an opening there and an opening there. We want to marry these things together, so we're going to bring the sphere as close to this as possible. So again, the way to do that again, what I would do is go into wireframe mode, select the entire sphere, right? There's also other ways. You can press Control L to select connected objects, right? And what I want to do now that I've got the entire sphere is start moving it closer down. So I'm going to press the G key and then press the Z key to constrain it across the Z axis and bring as close to as you can to this area right here. Okay, as close as you can. Now there's going to be some areas that are just slightly out of bounds, and that's okay because we're going to marry all these things together, right? So what we want to do, right, is again, look how close it is just from doing that. Okay, now if you're not close, don't worry, because what we can do is we can take this edge and we can bring it closer in if we really want to. I'm going to bring it so it's right on top of each. They're right on top of each other. So again, one thing to do for me is really zoom in, right? So I can see that I'm good. I don't even have to see all the edges because I'm going to constrain it across the Z axis. Take a look at that, right? And I'm going to really zoom in here so you can see that we're quite far apart. Now I'm going to press G across the Z axis. So again, constrain it and slowly, slowly bring these things so they're right touching, like so. And here we are. Let's zoom out again. So we'll zoom back out. And you can see that we're not connected 100% because we are still quite far, right? But now they're at least aligned. So what I want is to bring these ones. You might be in the same boat as me. You want to get this loop and bring it close to this loop. Okay, so let's do that. So we want to, again, a couple ways to do that. I'm going to shift into edge mode. And I only want to select this edge, but I want to select the entire edge. So again, what I want to do when I do that is I want to select the entire edge, right? So let's not pick the shortest path. So there's a couple ways to do that. I want to edge select. So if you go to edge and, you know, as an example, there are different selection mechanisms for this, right? So I want to select my loop. I want to select the edge loop. And you can see once I've done that, I get the entire edge loop. The shortcut key for that, by the way, if you look at select loops, is Control E. All right, so if you notice here, I have this thing. And what I want to do is I want to move it. So I want to, if I move it, if I just press G, it just kind of does one of these, right? But I want, if I press GG, right, then I can, what I can do is, if I press 2 Gs, I can move across this same area. See how long that goes? I can kind of move out like you know, part of the circle, or move in, right? I can also scale. So I can say, I can scale, you know, so I'm closer, right? And I'm going to use uniform scaling, so I'm much closer to where I have to go. And I'm talking about within millimeters, something that like you want to try and be as close as possible here. So why? Because I'm going to merge by distance now. So again, I'm going to go back to this, and they're together. I'm going to go into wireframe mode, select all of those two things here. And I'm going to press merge by distance. That's what I want to do. It's almost like a cleanup that I can do. So if you go to mesh and you go to cleanup, I want to merge by distance. And it's going to say that there's nothing merged because my distance might be too far. So let's just kind of increase that. And notice that I merged 32 vertices when I moved to 0.0101. That means that all those vertices now are married together, right? They're one vertex. If I move one, all of them move. Cool. That's how we've connected this thing now. And we're good. We're awesome because I've got some great, you know, a connection at the top. This is my morning star or whatever, if you will. This thing is going to hit the player. And if you want to, there's nothing that stops you from making this even bigger. So like a much larger thing than just this pole. All right, so how do we do that? So again, let's do that. And we'll go into front mode again. And I don't care about selecting those, but I do care about selecting everything else. So again, deselect all, please, and select everything from, not including this, from this vertex up. So again, what I want to do is box select right about here in between those. And I want to box select all of those vertices, right? So you can do that again. By the way, box select you can do multiple times. It's not going to hurt you. So let's do one of these. Now I've got this, and if I want to make this bigger, right, I can scale it up. One thing that happens is that it also scales kind of like this, right? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it creates this kind of hole. And if you look at it, it kind of does one of these, right? So it's not exactly what I was looking for, right? So let's undo. And so one thing to do is you notice that that is happening. You can bring it up. You can just move this up so it stretches this part, and that's okay. And then we know we're going to scale again. So scale, right? And what this is going to do is going to scale this object bigger. So let me just undo that change and do it again. So again, just to be exactly like me, if you want to follow, I'm going to move this up some amount, let's say about there. And I moved it up about, let's say 0.18946, we'll say 0.2, just to make it even, as much even as we can anyway. And then we're going to scale the whole thing. And let's undo that actually, and let's go into front mode so I can get a more accurate picture of this. I want to scale until I'm about right there, which is about 1.2, I would say. Make sure you're 1.2 everywhere. So it's a little bit bigger. It's about 20% bigger than what it was before. And it's not bad in terms of how it looks. It's a bit bigger than what we had before. And that's kind of our mace, if you will. We still have one problem we have to take care of, which is the base. Okay, that's the one problem we have. We also have to add more geometry here because we want to have the ability to add bones, and bones require geometry. So what I want to do is I want to press deselect all, and I want to again put this into front view, and I want to add a loop cut in the middle, okay, and then press enter. But instead of accepting only one cut, increase the number of cuts so that you have at least something like 10. Okay, so about 10 cuts. If you can go higher, go higher. And there's a reason for this, because the more cuts you add, the more areas, it'll be more flexible when it's bending. We can add more bones. Let's go 20 cuts. All right, there we go. Also at the bottom, I want to make this bottom wider, right? So I want to be able to expand the bottom vertices. So let's accept that. And then we want to go back to the bottom, and I want to add an additional piece, another loop cut down here between these two areas. And I'm going to, basically it's going to be like a crease or like a bit of information. So I want to kind of do another loop cut here and bring this up. So it's just right underneath the other one, like very close to the other one. I'm just using this so that way I can constrain my loop cut, right? So that if I want to expand the bottom, I don't affect from here up. That's what that is, okay? So, and the way I would do that is I would grab the bottom vertices. So again, we grab the bottom vertices like this with that extra little cut. It's almost like a crease, if you will, right? I'm so sorry, guys. So sorry. I don't know why that is with you guys. Right? Control, Control R is the loop cut. You can also go on the left where you have a loop cut on the left-hand side. You can do that too. And I added 20 cuts. And then I added a little crease that's on the bottom, an extra loop cut on the bottom. And the reason for this is then I can make a base for this thing that's bigger than this thing. So I'm going to scale it out, right? So this stuff I'm going to scale, right? And again, you can see that this is the way it is. I want to scale it, but I only want to scale it across the X and Z, right? So I'm going to say X and Y, right? And I want to do that together. So you can do it one at a time. So I want to scale it kind of out like this, right? So I'm going to make a base for it. And you can see that the Y is about 4. Let's make it 5. And we'll also make it 5 across the X in terms of scale, like this. It's almost like a base, like a lamp. That's what it's going to look like, right? And you can see what it does. It kind of looks like this. I've got a bunch of cuts, and all I did was for the loop cuts, I added 20 loop cuts in here. That's what I did. Yeah, you can do that as well, Vince. The only problem we have is the bottom, right? Because the bottom is a it's an n-gon, and that's the only n-gon we have in the entire thing. Okay, so that's one thing we could have decided in the first place, but I didn't want to do that because of the top. And now there's some things we have to think about here. Yes, it's an n-gon, but it's also going to sit at the bottom of whatever it's going to be. You're never going to see this face. So for completeness, we could get rid of it. All right, so let's get rid of it. Select mode, select that face and get rid of it, delete it. Could do this. And now we don't have faces, but we have this lamp, almost like a lamp thing that we have. And I want to select my edges now, and I want to select that bottom edge. And just like we did before, I want to go to select loops, edge loops, and you can see that it selects the whole edge loop there. I want to extrude, which is E, and press enter, right, for all of those edges, right? Actually, let me undo that. Okay, there it is. Let's try that again. So again, I want to select edge loops, and then let's move back into vertex select mode, and then we'll do the extrusion. So extrude, and then enter. We have extra geometry now, and I want to scale in. So you can see that I can scale in until I'm at the center point as close as possible, guys. And you can see that we're at, the scale is 0.03. If I go to 0, just to show you what this does, so 0, 0, and 0, then what's happened is that I've created a triangle fan, right? And that's okay. They're not, it's not what I would have liked. I wouldn't have liked to have this. I want to have, instead of a triangle, I want to have quads. And it's not like we can't do it. We can do quads, but I'd rather do a triangle fan. If we're going to do any triangle fans, it's going to be on the bottom, right? Because we're not going to see this face at all. So, but we have a bunch of vertices right here, and we want to clean up the mesh. So again, I'm going to go to mesh, and I'm going to go to cleanup, and I'm going to go to merge by distance on the bottom. And you can see I removed 31 vertices here at the bottom of my, so there's only one vert down here at the bottom now, okay? Better than we had before, even though it looks like it's a triangle fan. Who cares, because the bottom of my mesh, but it's not an n-gon. That is really bad. Okay, and that is the shape. Let's save this thing, save it. And I'm going to put this, let's go up one. I'm going to go to our stuff for today, Game 3004, Week 6 Sandbox. And I'm going to save this as our hazard.blend. I'm going to put this up on Blackboard for you. Okay, there's hazard.blend. Excellent. Before I upload it to Blackboard, a couple things I want to do to prep for this one is, let's go back into layout. All right, so we can see what this looks like. So it looks like there's a ball on top of the, this container, and this is going to basically do this. It's going to go back almost like it's going to bob left and right, and when it bobs left and right, we're going to have a little collider at the top here, and it's going to hit the character at the top, causing damage. Okay, so that's going to work. One thing I want to do is I want to apply all the scales and everything else. Let's do that first. So I'm going to, again, to apply everything, all the transformations. And also extrude, yes. You're going to use Control A in layout mode to do that. So Control A. It's going to, I want to apply all transformations, and you can see now that those will become ones. And on the z-axis, it's 11.3 meters. That's what mine ended up being. Yours might be a different size at the end. Okay, let's save that again. And now we're in a good place where we can apply at least a material. We already have a material. Let's use that one. And there's going to be two materials. Okay, there's going to be metallic material, and there's going to be a bronze material. Let's add that in before I save it and put it up. So here is a metal material. So everything is going to be metal. That's the base, right? And then I'm going to add in another material. We're going to call this material the bronze material. Okay, bronze material, metal material. And what I want to do is, remember, I have in my sandbox for you guys, I created a bunch of, I've downloaded a bunch of materials for you in the sandbox. So I have bronze and I also have all of this for metal. I'm going to apply all these things just like last time really quickly. First, I'm going to apply the material to the object, then I'm going to apply the textures. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, and we're almost out of time, but let's just do it. So again, I've got the two materials, but I only have one of them applied. I want to apply the bronze to the top, and I want to apply the metal to the bottom. Okay, now you can do different things if you want, but that's how I'm going to do it. So again, at the top, I'm going to go into editing mode. I'm going to go into front view, deselect all, move in, zoom in with wireframe mode. I know I'm going fast, but you guys should be at this speed now where you guys can, if you're following along and if you've been working with Blender this entire time, you should be more comfortable with where we were when we first started this whole thing, right? So select everything in the sphere, right? This part in the sphere, but not the bottom part of the sphere. The bottom part will be metal, and I want to make this the bronze material. So again, I'm going to go to material. I'm going to click bronze and click assign. And again, you can't see the difference, but there is an actual different material now here compared to here. Awesome. That's all we've done. And now let's apply the textures. So again, I'm going to go into, so we can see what the textures look like right now. You can see that there's clearly no texture applied. I'm going to go into layout mode and do the same thing. So let's see the texture. Okay, there's no texturing, right? So let's add them in. So let's start with metal. So the metal is all of this, everything else. And just like we did last time in base color, I'm going to go to image texture, and I'm going to select it. I'm going to open up the image texture and go to metal.tiff and open that up. There's metal. Now you can clearly see there's a problem with this, okay, because of my UV unwrapping, okay, that we've done. We're going to get back to this though, especially at the bottom here. Woo, there's like all kinds of problems at the bottom for these ones, right? But we're going to apply these materials first, or the textures first anyway. So there's metal material. There's also going to be, we have other things too. I have metallic. So again, just going to move up to that image texture, just like we've done before. So there's the image texture here. And we're going to select the metallic texture for metal. There it is. And do the same thing for the roughness. We have a roughness texture. So again, I'm going to go up to image texture and select the roughness for that as well, metal R. And we're not going to apply the normal map. We're going to do that in Unity. Okay, but I want to see what it looks like here. And we can actually see what the metal looks like. And you can see that it's clearly skewed. Okay, what about this part? Well, let's go back now and add the same kind of stuff to your bronze. Bronze is going to be kind of a clear bronze. Let's try that out. So we're going to go into image texture, and we're going to choose bronze this time. So another bronze, there we go. And you can also choose metallic. These are all the same things, all the same steps we did last time. We're just a little accelerated compared to last time because you've done this before. So it should be a little easier at this point, okay? Metallic, and we're also going to do roughness, right, which is something that we want as well, just to give a really nice kind of look and feel to everything. There's roughness, and we're going to go just move your mouse up, and or you can scroll and go there, and then we can open that up and go to roughness, bronze, and there you go. There's that rough material. We've applied all the textures, and you can see what it looks like. And one thing to note is the way that it's shading. Right now, this part of the model is shading kind of rough, and that's okay. But the thing, I'm not worried about this. This is actually going to unwrap nicely. The thing I'm worried about more is, did I? Bronze, bronze, bronze. Bronze, bronze, metal, metallic. Yeah, I did. Haha. Did I load it twice? Metal, M, render bronze. Yeah, I did. Let's open that up again and go to bronze, metallic. Bronze, bronze. Okay, we're good. Thank you for that. All right, so you can see that that is bronze. And what is this? So what will this look like when it comes to unwrapping? So we want to go into UV editing mode for a second, and now you can see the problems. All right, so. Where the heck is this sphere when it comes to unwrapping? And I want bronze metal. This is what it looks like. So this is the sphere. And notice what it does here. It actually has all of this, I want to unwrap this with the sphere, just this part. So I'm going to go to unwrap, and I'm going to do a sphere projection. All right, so it kind of does one of those. And you can see what it's doing. It's actually creating a sphere around the top and around the bottom. And it's going to be, it probably will look a little nicer now than what we did before. Let me just go into this to show you what it looks like. So a little bit more even in terms of the way it is. I still think it's too close. So what we can do here is we can scale it out. And I think at least twice is what we want to do, at least twice as big. All right, guys. So something like that, maybe even more. I went to -4. That's wrong. I want to go 4, not -4. So let's just go 4, which should, oops, love that. Let's try that again. So scale. All right. And we want to go to 4, 4, 4, 4. And now you'll see that there's a bit of information on this thing, but it's not going to be irregular. That's why I did it this way. Cool. So that is that part done. Again, it's not perfect. And the reason for that is because of these other shapes, right? You can always try, if you're not happy with this, you can always do another unwrapping. Try it again and do a, instead of a sphere projection, you can do a smart UV project and see what that gives you, right? So that gives you little islands. And a lot of times this might be a little better in many ways for the sphere projection than the actual sphere itself because of the way we cut it up. So again, I can expand this again by 4, right? So we'll go 4, 4, 4. And you'll see that it might be even better when we zoom in. Yeah, I think that's way better, way nicer, right? So you see that it's nicely, I know you don't know what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is an even amount of these little, this stuff. I don't want it stretched like this. This is stretched. See how this is skewed and stretched, right? It would, Mandy, for sure. So that's the sphere. Let's deselect all. What about this bottom part of the sphere? We didn't kind of get that, but we also didn't connect that with the other ones. This is actually metal, what I've made. So the metal part's here. It's connecting to the sphere, and this everything here is metal. So we want to do this other part separately. To select it manually, at least for this part's gonna be the cylinder. That's I'm going to try and do a cylinder unwrap for this part and this part too. And let's see how that works. So let's go into it, select that other part. First, I'll select the part that I can't see. I'll use wireframe mode to do that. So select that part at the bottom, and I'll keep selecting. Yeah, keep selecting. So then I'll keep doing this way over here. So that's how I do it. And let's move this to, instead of bronze, we want metal now. So we'll show metal in there. That's what metal is. And then what we'll try and unwrap, and we'll try and unwrap a cylinder projection. Let's see what that looks like. And that's not bad, right? Because the cylinder projection is the way it is. I don't like the bottom part though. So we may have to do this part a little differently, especially for the triangle fan, which is always not a great thing, right? So let's do this. Let's deselect the bottom. So again, what I'm going to do is just put it into this mode here, and I want to deselect everything and just grab the bottom verts. Remember I made that little crease? There's a reason for it. There's that little crease here. So that little crease right there is the place where I don't want to select. I just want to select these vertices, but not those ones. So I want to go into here and just, nope. Try that again. Again, it's got to be in a spot where I can see it properly. And there's other ways too, but I want to kind of be as close to these ones as possible. There we go. I can see that what I did was I did not select these bottom vertices because that's part of the other thing that we did. And that's what it looks like here. That's what it did when we unwrapped it with a cylinder. So let's do a smart UV project for this one, and that'll be the best we're probably going to be getting from it. Yeah, probably going to be the best we can do from this one. All right, so we've got that. We can select it, that part again. So that part that we want to do, everything together, because we want to scale everything up at the same level. So I want to do all these. and move in, and move in until we select those ones. I can select those ones too by doing another box select. There we go. Now we got all those. And now that we have all of this, right, and we can select all those faces, we want to scale that up by 4 as well. So something like 4. And again, we do this because we don't want so much detail. We want it to be smooth enough and yet not, refined enough so I can see the skewing. Let's see what this looks like. And when we put a texture on, and now you can see that we can clearly see that there's no skewing anymore. It's not pulling. It's pretty good. It looks like metal, right? And the only place that I don't like it is this. This is not good. I used UV project. Sorry, smart UV project, but this is no good. Look at this part. This is like terrible. It's no good. It's no good. We need to do this one again. So let's use a circle select and kind of select these bottom faces. So again, I want to do circle select, and I want to get into face select mode to do that. So I want to circle select those faces. Again, there's going to be 32 faces, right? Because remember what we did, we accepted 32 cuts. We need that much geometry for us to do bones. We don't need it, but it won't look good without it. All right, so that we need to do again. And notice that when we selected this, there's literally nothing selected there. It's like they weren't even done, right? So that's not good, and that's why it didn't look good. That's why it looks all skewed and messed up like that. So again, unwrap, and we'll do let's try Smart UV Project again, and let's see what that does. Hey, look at that, okay? So that is more like it. It looks nicer than it was before, and we'll make that scale up a bunch of ways, all the way to 4 times, just to be the same as everything else we've done. And I don't care if they're overlapping because I'm not drawing stuff on here on my own. All right, cool. So that looks way better. And you can see that that is metallic, so is this, and they're all connected and they're all scaled, and they're also attached to each other as bands of metal, right? So kind of these are all together, these are all together, these are all together. So it's not looking like it's separate pieces. Awesome. This is our item, and this is pretty good. Let's go back into layout mode now. We have this item, and we'll put this up on Blackboard, so you at least have what I have. Save. It's very big. Okay, I have to warn you guys. It's super big. So that is the biggest issue. So file, save, and let's put this up on Blackboard so you have it before we move on for the next piece. So again, under where I put it is under labs, under lab for assets. I'm going to put that asset up. So again, item, and we're going to add in this thing that is the hazard.blend, the blend file for it, and prerequisites. No, just have to go back to the previous. Someone from YouTube is asking for prerequisites. I would say go back to the previous videos this semester and you'll see what we've done. All right, so I'm just going to grab that hazard and pull it in. There we go, and submit it. So if you couldn't do what I did just now you notice it's also 1 megabyte. It's way bigger than normal for a blend file. Why? Because of all these extra things. One thing we didn't do, even with the blend file, is we didn't pack everything. And again, to pack everything in, you can go to File, and you can go to External Data, Pack Resources. And if I save that again, right, it doesn't really matter for Blender or the stuff that we get online, but yeah. Are you with me? Do you have this? You have something like this now? If you are with polygons. But remember, Vince, one thing we need to know is whenever we do bones, right, whenever we do a rig and everything else, and depending on what we want the bones to do, right, then we've got to think about the more polygons, right, then the more natural it's going to look, because it's almost like an organic model at the end of the day. Now we're going to hit organic modeling in the latter half of semester. Again, in more details. You guys have already been using Mixamo. I'm going to go to the next level with Mixamo with you guys. in the second half of the semester. So hopefully it's going to continue to perform. All right. So last but not least, now that I've added this thing in, we're ready to add an armature. Okay. So what I want to do here, it's an actual second shape. All right, that is going to be not the cylinder. Let's rename the cylinder so it's not cylinder, but it's actually hazard. And we'll say that this is the hazard body. And inside of this is the hazard mesh. Notice there's a cylinder and there's a couple of materials. We'll call this the hazard mesh. This is this part. It's important for us to name this properly now at this point. Save. And what we want to do here is I want to add an additional object. So again, I'm going to do layout mode, by the way, or you can go to add. If you want to go to add armature, that's fine. But one thing to note, when I add an armature, and the armature is in there, right? One thing to note is that the bone that has been created is now invisible unless I open up X-ray mode. So what I want to do is be able to see the bone right here, and notice that it's pretty small. So there's the bone. Okay. So what an armature is a series of connected, it's a network of connected objects inside of the object itself that we're working on, called bones. You can think of these as a spine, as a kind of spine that we want to create. Okay. Sorry, 2 minutes? Wow, that's really long. I didn't add normal maps or anything like that. Let's undo that. So which part did you miss, Vince? 1 minute. Okay. Are you still?
Yeah, it wasn't 2 minutes, but I think it was just when you started creating your bone structure, so the armature.
Okay, let's do it again. So I'll say Shift A, and I want to add in a armature, right? And then what you want to do is you want to go into solid mode and then in X-ray mode so you can see it. See it? It should look like that. And it should be aligned with the bottom of your model, guys. That's why I put the model where it is. I didn't put the model in the earth or in the ground because I wanted the bone to be aligned with the model. Notice the bottom of the bone in front mode is at the bottom of the model. There are 3 parts of a bone, okay? And I'm going to go into edit mode so we can see this properly. I'm going to select my armature and go into modeling mode, right? So with my armature selected and with me in solid mode and in X-ray, not wireframe, I can see that my bone looks like this. This is what my bone looks like. Let's talk about the parts of a bone and we'll end for today. Okay? There are 3 parts of the bone. The place where the bone starts, the middle of the actual bone itself, right? And then the end. You can select each of these in edit mode, right? Separately. Okay? Let's suppose to select the top. The bottom will stay fixed, right? And what I can do if I select it, I can move it anywhere I want, right? Whether it's outside the model or within the model. It's obviously clear that what I want to do is I want to put it inside the model. And that our challenge is that we don't want too many of these, right? Maybe 3 max is what we're talking about, okay? The way bones work and the way deformations work or organic modeling works is wherever I have a bone, okay, as an example, it will affect the parts around it, okay? So for example, if I don't want this bone to bend, right? And if this is the bone that's going to stay solid, as an example, then this one will be at the bottom. And what happens is wherever the bone is, it'll have an influence on all the vertices around it. Okay, let me say that again. So this bone, which is an object, will have an influence on all the vertices around it. So if I move the bone this way, and if there's vertices around this thing, this bone, the vertices will deform to kind of scale along with the bone. Okay. There are going to be parts of this model that I don't want to move. And maybe what I want to try for the beginning is only 2 bones, right? And you're going to say, what, 2 bones? I'm like, yep, 2 bones. How do I do that? Well, remember, I can move this bone up anywhere I want. Okay, so as far up as I want. And I want to kind of move it up at least halfway up, right, for where it's going to be. So notice that I can move it up and I can constrain it across the z-axis. So I can move it across the z-axis too. So, so I want to move to press the G button at the top of the bone. Again, I'm in edit mode and I want to move it towards the middle of this area. There's going to be a part which is about right here. Okay, let's undo that, Vince. Do it again. So again, I'm in edit mode. So layout mode, edit mode. I've got the armature selected, okay, in order for me to do this. In edit mode, I'm going to go right here. There's 3 parts. I can select this part, or this part in edit mode. I want to select the top. And once I've selected the top of the bone, I want to scale out. So I want to kind of come to about here, right? And then what you want to do is you want to do that with the G key, so or the move. You can do it with this, okay, if you really want to. So you can move across this way if that makes it easier for you. That's fine too. I want to come to about right there. Notice that the tail, right? There's the head and the tail. This is the tail. This is the start. This is the begin. This is the end. This is also called the head and the tail of the bone. So the tail of the bone, notice, is about 4.9. Let's make it 5 meters up. Exactly 5 meters. Okay. I'm not changing the radius or anything like that. I'm just moving this bone right up. There's different representations of the bone. You can picture this bone as a line. You can picture this bone like something like this. It's up to you. Okay, next, now that I have this bone that's up this way, let's name it. So on the right, you see there's a bone property, right? And at the top of this bone property, there's the name of the bone. Let's call this the root bone, root.bone. Okay, please do that. We're going to name all of our bones. And this is the first step into learning about an armature. Guys, I know I'm running over time. Please hang out just for a few minutes more, and then we'll get this done. And then what I want to do is I want to go into, again, I'm still in front mode, and I want to extend the bone, add another bone in here. Now, the easiest way to do that, guys, is to extrude or press E. If I extrude, I get another bone. If I press the E button. And again, I want to constrain it across the Z-axis, and I want to move it up until it's at the bottom, the very bottom of the head of this object here. Okay, so again, I'm thinking about 9 meters at this point. 9 for me. That's my thing. So it's right at the bottom of the ball. Here's not what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to extend another bone inside here. That means if I don't extend a bone inside here, I will have no influence on deforming the ball. I want the ball to stay non-deformed. The only place I'm going to deform, I'm going to bend this thing. Okay, the more bones I have, the more I can deform this. You may try more bones than this. I'm going to just use 2. Just 2. Okay. Yes, there are naming conventions. Typically what you do is you start off with the hips, if we're going to make a character, and then you work across, and we can also mirror across the x-axis. And I'll talk about that when we're actually doing a humanoid character. Right now we're just using this very simple thing just to learn about rigging, right? All right, so for now we have a root bone, and now we have a second bone, this bone right here. So again, we can select the bone, the second bone. I have the root bone right here, and we have this other bone. Let's call this the top bone. Okay, so we have the top bone and the root bone. Yay! Hip bone connected to them. All right, and we're going to save our model. Okay, and we are going to go back into layout mode. Okay, this is the last step for us to apply the armature. Okay, so again, the steps are, we've created armature, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to select our hazard first, and then we're going to shift select our armature second. Okay, hear me out, right? So let's do this together, right? So again, you can see that I'm selected my model, my hazard, and then I'm going to shift select, right, my armature second. Okay, and then I'm going to press Control P. Okay, but there's another way to do it. Okay, so I'm just going to say this as it is. If I go to Object, and you know, there is a way of parenting. I want to basically parent this object to the other object. Okay, that's what's happening here. So remember that if I just press parent, right, then notice it says I can clear my parent, or I can select more or less the parent. If I actually add parent, which is Control P, right, that is what parents everything. And if I did that, if I press Control P, it's going to give me this little menu that comes up. Okay, and we're not quite right. Okay, so let's undo that. Let's undo the selections. All right. So again, hazard and then armature. Hazard and then armature. I'm selecting both in that order. And let's see what that does when I do it that way. So Control P, right? This is what I want, okay? And I use Control to select. So I went hazard first and then Control click or Control select, and then I did Control P, not Shift select, okay? So Control P. Please do this properly. If you don't do this right, it won't work. So Control P, right? It's going to give us a little menu. And what I want is armature deform with automatic weights. That's what I want right now. I'm not going to weight paint at this point. So just do with automatic weights. Do you see this menu? Check mark if you see this menu, guys. If you don't see this menu, you're not parenting properly. Okay, please make sure you see the menu. I see 2 people see the menu. Chris, that's 3. Okay. Good. You need to be in object mode. Absolutely. Herman. Good. When I click onto it, it actually parents the armature to everything else. So now in my armature, I have this. Okay, I have. Thank you for that feedback. I have the following. I have the hazard mesh. I have the armature here, and then I have the armature container up here. This up here is actually the hazard itself. So this is the hazard. So if I recheck this, double click and change this to hazard. This is the hazard object, but I can't name this that way because I have hazard in here. So I've had hazard mesh and I have what we did before, the hazard body. Let's change this to hazard body, hazard mesh, hazard body, and then the armature can be the actual hazard. Kind of layering, that's what we're doing, right? And then inside we have an armature, which is our rig. Inside the armature, we have 2 bones, the root bone, and notice that the top bone is parented to the root bone. They're connected. That's an important thing. Okay, now that we have this, we're good to go. All right, let's save our model, save our hazard.blend. There it is. And what I want to show you is what you can do. We're not going to do that right now, but what you can do is I can select my armature, this thing, not the hazard itself, not this part. So I want to deselect all. If I select this, I'm selecting the entire thing, okay? If I go into modeling mode with this selected, the hazard, okay, as an example, then you can see that I have edit mode, object mode, and pose mode. With pose mode, what I can do is I can select a part of the bone, right? So this part. And then what I can do is I can rotate this bone in a different position. So I can say, I want to rotate it this way. Look, take a look at that. The whole thing deforms at the point of rotation. And it deforms pretty badly, right? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go boom and hit my character on the head. I wanted to go like this low, okay? But what we can do is in pose mode, right? I can start, kind of adding in keyframes. It is a broken arc case. That's why it's a hazard. It's a hazard, right? And we're going to do that next day. So let's leave it there. I'm going to update the model that we have on Blackboard. So you have all these bones as well. But this is where I want to stop for the day. Okay. So file, save, add file. I'm not going to export it here yet. We're not ready for that. We still need to do our animation, but we'll talk about the animation next day. Okay, any questions around this before we stop for the day? So pretty straightforward, I think, what we've done. I think we've kind of put together a model that is useful, and it's really large. It's like 10 meters or 11 meters high. We're going to have to reduce this when it comes to Unity because our model, our actual character is like 2 meters high. It's like way down here. So we have to reduce it in size, but it's easier for us to reduce than to expand. Okay, it's always easier for us to do that. All right, so let's stop that. And I'm just going to update the stuff on Blackboard, and then we're good to go. So I'm just going to remove this one. If you've started there, that's great. And then I'm just going to put the new one up there in here. So that way you have what I have at this point. Okay. And I want this for a couple reasons. I know this, like, people are like, well, why do we bother following you if you're just going to give us everything anyway? The idea is that you practice. That's the idea. It's a skill. It's just an extra skill you have to have. And I mean, you don't have to. As a programmer, some people will say that it's not required. But I find that, again, it's just really great for you to understand how things are put together. Notice that this is now 2.88 megs because of all the information that we've packed in. All right, that's it, guys, for today. Any questions before we go for the day? I'll see you guys on Thursday for the next half of what we're doing. Okay. Doesn't seem like there's any questions. I'm just going to turn off YouTube at this point, and we'll go from here. All right. And thank you for joining me today. All right, so for those people, I'm not on YouTube anymore. For those